Okay, so good evening to all of you who have joined us today on Zoom platform, and to those who are joining us live on Facebook for JK Scientists Outreach 2020. We are pleased to have with us today Pardeep Singh Sodhi, who is joining us live from California. We appreciate Pradeep joining you early morning at around 5:30 in California. So Pradeep, I just want to give a brief background about you. Pradeep is a civil engineer by profession. He has done his MS in civil engineering from the University of California, Los Angeles in September 2018. Pradeep graduated from UCLA in June 2019 and started working around the same time as a geotechnical earthquake engineer at Earth Mechanics Inc., who headquartered in California. Pradeep, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Khalid. First, I would like to appreciate my appreciation for the Kashmir scientist and all the team for first inviting me and putting up such a beautiful initiative as such, where we connect with our alumni, the people who are already ahead in experts in their field, to connect the people, the general youth of Kashmir with those people, because yeah, it surely helps them out. It gives a head start, and I really appreciate for this great initiative.
Thank you so much, Pradeep. As we have already floated our poster, we understand that our discussion will be based on your journey, and we'll also touch certain facts or aspects related to the admissions in the US. So let me just start, Pradeep, with this. Can you just please explain to us about your background, from where you belong to, and about your schooling, and then your bachelor's and master's?
Sure, Khalid. So yeah, I'm Pardeep Singh. I'm 24 years old, and I'm currently working as an earthquake engineer in California. I have done my schooling from Tendal Bisco, Sheikh Bagh, and I have done my bachelor's from SRM University. My discipline was civil engineering, and then I did my master's from University of California, Los Angeles, and I did my master's in civil engineering, specialization in earthquake engineering. So that's pretty much about me.
So Pradeep, I just want to quickly add up that you have done your primary schooling in Srinagar only, and then you did your bachelor's in civil engineering from SRM University, Chennai. So at first, I would just like to know from you what motivated you to pursue a career in civil engineering from SRM University.
Okay, so I would say before we decide on that, we have to lay some groundwork, like how it all started from when I was a child. So right from when I was a child, I was really interested into books. I really loved reading books. I would just go. There were certain books like Tell Me Why or some certain encyclopedias, because when I was young, we didn't had this luxury called internet. It was still like a very privilege that very few had. So probably my best friends were like books. I would just go read books, and the more I read through the books, it actually inspired me, the technology, the buildings and everything. So I always was motivated to do something, create a prototype, or contribute myself into this one. So as a child, when you're exposed to these stuff, it encourages you to push your limits, to push your horizons, what you can do. And one of the books that I remember was Mega Structures. It was a special edition by Nat Geo, and in which I read about the buildings, how they made the Type A 101, how they made the World Trade Center. They talked about all the big structures. And the first question that struck my mind was how do these tall structures actually stand on ground? Why don't they just crumble down? Why don't they fall off? So that was my first initiation towards towards civil engineering. And there's one incident that happened during my school time. Like I was in my school, and one of my teachers, so we had a surprise test in geology, and her name was Miss Ashrafa, and she just took a surprise test. And even though I didn't score, it was just a surprise test, so we didn't know what was coming up. And even though I didn't score, I was not the top scorer. I was the average scorer. She liked my answers, and she was like, "Pradeep, I will love you to see as a geologist." And I would say my teacher, even though I didn't know anything about geology back then, but probably the teachers have experience on their side. They have some instinct, and that kind of pushed me, because I was already interested in civil engineering. I was like, okay, geology and civil engineering, they seem interrelated. So that was kind of the first pushing block. Then when I went to Stendhal Bisco, so we had one of our sir called Irfan sir, and they actually had a collaboration with National Children's Science Congress. And usually it was a platform for children to come together and make some prototypes how we can conserve energy or make new modes of energy. And he initiated me, like he said me that you want to join it, and that was like an opportunity, and I was like, yeah, why not, like let's try it. And I started in 11th class and it failed miserably. Like we were out in the district level only, it didn't go well. But it was a good thing because they were like two things I could do: either drop it right away or work on it. And me and my team, like I had a very dedicated team with me, and we worked on it, and we worked through it. And the next year, into when I was in my 12th, we took it to the national levels, and we were awarded child scientist by the Ministry of Human Resources back then. And if I had given up that opportunity right in my 11th class, probably I wouldn't had been exposed to what I was exposed in my 12th class. I wouldn't have taken it to national levels. So that's one thing. Like when we at times have opportunity knocking at our doors, we just need to take it. What good thing happened in that national conference was that we had some people come that came from Germany, and I was exposed to them. We talked, and I got to know how schooling is in Germany. And that was like, that's where I made up my mind, like if I have to do something, I need to do it from abroad. So that was my first initiation. But I was just exposed, so I didn't want to do my bachelor's from Germany. I thought like I will do my master's from Germany. And because I had the exposure, I just started digging in how the whole process works. And then I came into my bachelor's. I started my bachelor's in SRM University. Thankfully, I would say my teachers were like very supportive. All my teachers were like very supportive. And once I was starting working, they would encourage me, go see this, check this website, go do this and that. And I started building my profile because I got to know, like, if you have to go to like top universities in the world, you can't just start at the last hour. You can't start in your fourth year. That's many things that many people do. They just try to do. They are like, when they are in the fourth year, they're like, now what to do? How can we go to the universities? The best thing was like I started really early. I started in my second year, and that really gave me a good head start. One other thing that actually helped me around this time was like having friends who were having like mindsets, because having a company that's having same mindsets or same goals at you, it's like a very big push that you can have. I had a friend named Ocean. She was also having like same mindset and same ambitions, and we actually worked together, worked for each other. Then, since like we were already ambitious, we were already pumped up, so what we did, we just went to like do research work, even though like it was not very common in in engineering department in our college to do so many research work. We just tried to push our limits. Then our goal was changed from acquiring marks to acquiring knowledge, to just set free our limits, what we can do. One example was that we were having a minor project, and mostly what student did is like just write some work, Excel sheets just from the internet, and just present them in a PowerPoint, and that's what did it. But since we had this opportunity and we had a lab, we just went to the lab, we did some soil testing and everything. And seeing all this enthusiasm, our teachers really like, they were like, when they saw like we were doing so much, they even came forward. They helped us with the resources, they helped us with the laboratory. And when we were preparing for our college, they gave us really good LORs. And that's one thing that actually helped us getting good admissions at college like UCLA.
So, Pradeep, as I understand that you had a motivation kind of in your bachelor's program, but see, I just want to tell you that seeing people back home, we usually see a scary filtration process back home. Say, for example, we have 100 civil engineering graduates or any graduates in any discipline. So what we have seen that out of that, around 80 or 85% of the people, they just stop doing anything after the bachelor's. They feel like that we have done our bachelor's and now that we are engineers, we want to find a government job. Was that not true with you? I mean, didn't you want to find a government job back home? And what exactly motivated you to pursue a career in US then?
I would say like so the reason that you said that 80% of people are actually happy content with their bachelor's and they don't want to pursue it any further. I would say it's because of our culture that we currently have in Kashmir. Like our elders, I wouldn't say they are like hindering us. They're actually protective, and they don't want us to venture into risk. They don't want us to get into something that is unsearched or unresearched. So they just want us to do something that has been tried and tested. That's what they probably are doing. The thing with me, like, I'm the only child, I don't have a sibling, so my dad was very protective of me. He really didn't want me to leave Kashmir. Even he was like, you're our only son, just stay with us. But my mom was like very encouraging, and she was very supportive. She was like, if you have it in you, if you want to do it, just do it. What was that thing that actually motivated me to go away from the normal thinking of getting a government job and staying after bachelor's and going to get masters? I was probably my exposure to different levels. Like, as I said, when I went to the National Science Congress, when I met the German people, it was an inspiration to me to see how their schooling works. And I was like, what we are doing here is like rote learning. We're just testing how good we can learn certain stuff and write that in our exams. But how they teach in Germany was very different. How they actually let the students go and explore the stuff on their own. And that's something that inspired me. So like, okay, maybe our goal is not just to go earn some money and get back home. Maybe is to serve the society. And that's one thing Kashir Science is doing. I mean, you guys, it's like Sunday, you could have stayed with your family and enjoyed your Sunday, but you are just helping our students and you're giving back to your community. And that's one thing that always helped me to shape my future, that I wanted to do something that could help me, not only me, but my society, my immediate neighbors, and everybody.
So, Pradeep, we always also have this issues at our home, that okay, see, now that certain degrees, for instance, or certain professions, for instance, are believed to stop at bachelor's level. I mean, there's no need to go for masters. So, how did your parents react to your choice of going for master's program, and that too in a foreign land which you might not have visited prior to being in the US?
That's true. Actually, it was my first foreign trip that I made to US. I would say that I think in Kashmir right now the competition is very high. I mean, not in Kashmir, in generally in India, because like we're having so many graduates that are coming out of college. So the thing is that if you're just having a bachelor's degree, you're not going to survive in this current competitive market. The thing is that you have to show that you are different from your peers, and that's why you deserve the job. That's the basic right now. That's the thing that's going on in India. So I would say, like, people who are just satisfied at the bachelor's, even they are not just waiting there. They are just trying to do some competitive exam, because everybody knows that, you have to do something different. You can't be just one of the sheep in the herd. You have to be someone different. You have to acquire some certain skills that are not right now in the market, and that will help you perpetuate in this whole scenario. So what actually motivated me is, like, first, what is for like serving the community. I just wanted to serve others. And the other thing was, like, I never wanted to, right from a college, I never wanted to limit myself to mass. I always wanted to explore more. How does this certain thing work? How does this building stand? And my interest actually grew in earthquakes, because in India we still have this metric of measuring the earthquakes in Richter scale, but in US we have magnitude. So we don't measure the earthquake here in Richter scale, but in magnitude. And that's different, because if I compare that to India, we are still very, very behind it. But when I was like thinking about the structures, how they could stand, why don't we have these structures in India? Why don't we have such tall skyscrapers in India? And these questions were like something that pushed me to get beyond the marks thing, because usually what we do in India, as I told you, it's more about rote learning. It's more about learning, remembering stuff and writing that in exams. We don't try to push our limits. But I would say, because of my teachers who inspired me, I always wanted to learn what is the basic thing that actually makes a structure work. What is the basic thing that actually makes a structure stand tall? I would say, if we develop such a thinking, and I think people in Kashmir are very intelligent. It's just because our culturally we are cultured in such a way that we just don't want to push our limits. We just want to be protected. We just don't want to take risks. I think in Kashmir, I have seen, because when I went to National Science Congress, there were other students from Kashmir who went there, and they were having like even beautiful prototypes what I have made. They were even better than me. So there's enthusiasm in the people of Kashmir. I would say there are many people in Kashmir, generally in India, who want to do something. It's just because we have made our society or culture in such a way that we just don't want to venture out. And that's one thing that I think that's a drawback in our society right now.
So Pradeep, concentrating more on your master's degree, please make us understand that at what is the appropriate time that any student in his bachelor's program must really, if somebody is having a zeal or a dedication to, say, for example, pursue his master's program, and somebody in master's program wants to pursue a PhD program, was the appropriate time a student must think about finding opportunities? Or let's start with the basics. I mean, let's say I want to find some opportunities. What's the appropriate time for me as a bachelor student to start finding things around?
So, Khalid, there are two things that I would like to bring up. So, first thing is that like even after you are done, you're in your fourth year, you can still apply to colleges in US and you can get admissions. It's not far. Like there are many colleges in US, but right now what we're discussing is like top tier colleges like Stanford, Harvard, UCLA, top tier college. And I would say like there's a quotation in English that early bird gets the worm. So as early as you start, it's really good for you. Why I'm saying that? Because I started myself in second year. Because if I had started in fourth year or probably in my sixth semester, I might not have got my admits from UCLA or other top universities. The reason is that to get into these top universities, you have to start building a profile. You need to make a profile that uh, tells the college that you are research based, your mind is research based, you really want to push your limits. Because so like there are certain things that every college these colleges ask for. So first of all, they look at your CGPA, your marks in your bachelor's. So in case you're not having this right from the start that I have to get good grades because I have to apply to these universities. If you don't start right away and you're just in your last semester and you don't have a seat, you have a CGPA like 8, and you want to apply to this university, probably you don't have a best shot. I don't say you can still make it, you can make it, but you don't have the best shot. You will have like lost already half of the battle. Second thing is that internships. I started doing my internships right from the second year. I have my friends who are in their fourth year and they like who are junior to me, and they still don't have any internships. I think that's a very major drawback because in the break time you would just go home or go vacation. I mean, vacations are really important, but if you have already in your mind that you want to go abroad, pursue your masters in Harvard or UCLA, you know that you need a certain amount of internships. So if you know it right away from second year, it actually helps you out. Third thing is research work. You need to show you need to show your research temperament, and you can't just do it in the last years. You have to do it. So that's what I'm saying. If you start early, like from your second year, you have enough time to pack in your internships, to pack in your research work, to pack in your college curricular activities, because all of these make your profile. And what these colleges like UCLA do, they see the overall picture. One thing I said before, that even you have eight CGPA or seven CGPA, you can still get into Harvard. Why I'm saying that, it's written on the forum of Harvard University that they understand like in your college you might not be very bookish and you might be more into interest research based, so that's why you don't have good score. But then you have to support that thing with your research work. Like, I'm not getting good marks in my academia, but see, I have done an enough research work that show that I'm research based. Second thing is that if you don't have good score in your GRE, because you have to give some exams like GRE and TOEFL, if you don't have good score in your GRE, you can justify that, I had a bad day on my GRE exam, but you can look at my marks. So see, they see the overall picture, even though like there are seven certain things, which I will come to later. What are the certain things you need to go? Even if you are lacking in one or two, but you justify them by the other things, you can still get into top universities like Harvard or UCLA.
Pradeep, I echo what you have said. For instance, while I have been in academia back home, for instance, and this is true for majority of the people across the country also. What we see in students is that they at the fag end of their bachelor's, they start thinking about what next. Okay, which is not true as what you have also portrayed. So just make me understand. So when this thing came in your mind that okay, I will do my masters, for instance, from US. What was the first thing that came in your mind that you started doing on it? I mean, what did you do the first thing for what you have been doing at US?
So I would say the first thing when I was started, so my first goal was not to go to US, it was to go to Germany, because masters in Germany is pretty cheaper than masters in US, because in Germany and some European countries, the masters is sponsored by the state, like you don't have to pay for the masters. And that was my first goal, because really I don't want to pressurize my parents for the money and everything, because I really wanted to get it done, very frugally. And then the thing is that the top universities of so my goal was always to get into top universities, because see, I have seen my some of my peers getting into Canada or other countries. Getting into another country is not a big thing, you can go it easily. I told you, like, even if you apply after your fourth year, you can still get into US, you can still get into college in US or Canada. That's not the aim. The aim should be to get into the because go for the best, or don't go for it. And so I wanted to go for the best universities in Germany. And one of us, his name was Dinesh, and he actually told us to go to DAD. So DAD is an organization by Germany, and they are based in New Delhi, and they help students to profile themselves, how to profile, how to get into the things, and how to make up their whole profile to get into Germany. And in that, they told us, if you want to go to the best university, that was like Bonn University in Germany, you need to have a research work. If without research work, you can't make it. And they just told us right away. And that was the point. I was in my second year. I had my friend, and we both thought, like, okay, if we have to make it to Bonn University, we have to get our research work done. And that's when we started. We started our first research work in the fourth semester. That was in the second year. We started our first internship in our second year. And I would say, when you are doing this hard work, and it shows. Teachers around you, they see it, and that's where our teachers were actually, they came forward. My HOD, his name is Vineet Bajaj, and he actually encouraged for our second internship. He actually pushed us. He took us to the signature bridge. He talked to the supervisor. He's like, I am having some 10 students, please provide them with an internship. So if me and my friend hadn't started that all, if we hadn't, started our internships or research work, our I mean, it wouldn't have come into a dream of our HOD that these guys need internship. It's when he saw. So what I would advise students who are watching this, is just take the shot, start working, do the hard work, even though you have, because when I started, I had no resource. I had no person, no relative or friend who was studying abroad. And just because I started, the way started opening up. One thing led to another. It was a domino effect. One thing led to another, and eventually we got people on our back. Our teachers start supporting us. But it all starts with you. Unless you don't take the shot, it's not going to happen.
So, Pradeep, continuing with this discussion, how important are graduation marks to be specific, important for securing a fellowship or a position in a lab? And uh, what things should actually we focus on CVs and letter of interest or statement of purpose?
Okay, so as I told you that there are certain things. So since we are talking about top tier universities, I will just give you a big picture. What they're looking for. So the first thing is they're looking at the basic thing that they're looking at is like your research interest. I'm telling you, if you're having low scores, because there are some people who are in their third year or probably starting the fourth year and they don't have a good score. I won't say that don't be disheartened, because the first thing that these universities sees is like research interest. So if you're having some research work, that's a very big heads up that already puts you in a good position. So first thing I think you should focus on is your research interest. Second thing, obviously good GPA. I mean, if you're having good GPA, you show that you're doing good in your studies. But even if you don't have good GPA, if you don't have top, you are not nine GPA, you're in 8 or 7, you can still make it. But then you have to focus more on the other parts. The other parts which are like, so if you have done your research work, probably you have done something and you can publish it. If you have a publication, like me and my friend had 3 publications, and that was actually icing on the cake, because it shows that whatever you have done, it's being accepted by the industry around you, and you know something what you're doing, and it's a very big heads up. Apart from that, your internship, your field work, because I would say whatever you study in the classroom or do in the lab is very different from how it actually happens into the industry. So like me and my friend had like 4 internships, and that showed that in our profile that we know not only what is in the books, not only what is in the lab, but also how it's happening in the industry. And when you have all these things, apart from the 2 exams that GRE and TOEFL you have to give. I'm not taking them right now. I'm just talking about your profile. Once you have all this, then you have to write a statement of purpose. The statement of purpose SOP is actually like a written interview in which you explain yourself. Now, why I discuss those things before this is because when you're writing the SOP and let's say your scores are not good, your scores are 7, but in your SOP you can write that even though my CGPA is 7, I have done this research work, I have done this research work. I didn't like being bookish, but I like more being research work. You can justify your 7 CGPA. Other way, if you have good CGPA but you don't have research work, you can explain in your SOP that I was very interested in my studies. My college didn't have facilities for the research work, so that I couldn't do research work. I would be great if you can allow admit to your college, and I can take the advantage of the research facilities at universities. So that's the base thing. You know the 4 corners. Even if you fill up 3 like really good, even one is like not filled up that good, you can cover it up in your SOP. And that's why they say that SOP is a main quintessential thing in your whole profile that you send to US or other colleges.
So, Pradeep, as I understand that the final equation is not determined by a single variable. There are a number of variables that actually play a role. Say, for example, your graduation marks, your SOPs, your CVs, your internships, your project works, and everything else. It plays a combined role, in determining whether you will be taken up by a school or not. So, Pradeep, I would just like to you to make our people understand that we have always faced this issue, not just at JK Scientists, but elsewhere as well. When you see our people writing to us also, or writing to their professors, they do not understand that. See, if I'm texting you on WhatsApp, it's entirely a different process than texting you on email and sending you an email or making convincing your professor for a position. So how important are these soft skills, communication skills, when you send an email or respond to emails to the professors?
So college, so there's the one thing, so when you're applying to these top universities, the professors there are also like the top tier professors. I mean, they are not just doing the college work, they're helping the government, they're helping many other countries with their works. Like my professor, Professor Stewart, he's one of the best earthquake engineer in the world. Like he helps US governments, he helps France governments. Like I would say he is the top tier of the right now of the whole industry. So if I just go to him and ask him, if I send him an email that please give me a internship or something, he won't even see it. Probably he won't see it. So how to approach a professor is like, so first once you see like you want to talk to this professor, go on internet, go through the publications, go through the work they are doing, see what they are doing right now. Once you have been through your publication, find what is interesting you or what's something that you understand, because you don't want to talk about something that you don't even understand. I mean, that professor of your college probably has done like 300 research papers, and if you find one that is good that you have knowledge about, take that topic, make a question out of it, and send him like like type an email like, hello sir, I'm this from this university, I went to you this question like research paper and have this specific question. So the thing is that when a person like that, he sees an email that you read his research work, you went through research work, and you have a question. People like these, they always have a tendency to explain, to make it more clear to people, what they have done. And this is like the first striking chord. You can strike a conversation, and once the conversation is up there, you can go up and you can talk to them. You can eventually make a conversation, make a relationship. And if he likes, and the professor probably he will likes you, and you tell him that I want to pursue my master's, he can actually be a good resource for you in that university.
That's great. So, Pradeep, when you approached your professor, so had you done some prior homework related to what he's working on? So, is it really necessary to write to a professor who closely matches your research interests? As I understand that it's not always justified, or it's not always advisable to randomly shoot emails to professors who are not closely related to your work.
So yeah, as I said, you have to go to like their research work. So since you have to get through like at least 10 research papers, you won't do it randomly for any other person. Like, you know how we just send email to any other person. If you are reading through 10 research persons, you really want to talk to that professor, you really want to talk to that person, and that already narrow down your interest to that one person or two or three person. That's the main thing you do. And once you get into their research papers, you get to know like what their thinking is about, what they're talking about, what they're interested in. And thing is that when these speakers, like these professors, and they have done something and there's something you don't understand, professors in US, like, they are very empathetic. They would just sit down with you. Like, if when I had my question in my masters and I had some questions, my professor, I told you, like, he is working for government and everything, he would sit down with me for like 2-3 hours straight and just make sure that I understand what he's teaching me. I mean, if you just ask them questions that are genuine questions from the research, or just any general question from that industry and what they know about, they would certainly come down and strike a conversation with you, make it explain to you. But you need to be, it can't be one way. You have to show your interest, you have to do your homework, you have to respond them. And if they tell you like go to this website, you can just leave it there and respond them like after 1 month or two. You can't do that. You have to go it, dig in, because when the other person sees that you are interested, you really want to strike conversation, it helps you both, and that eventually helps you out with the resource.
Okay, Pradeep, coming back to your preparations for your when you applied for your master's program, please make us understand what fellowships did you target, or finally which fellowship you availed, or make us understand a few fellowships that our students can target to pursue this master's or PhD in US.
So I think your question is more about the scholarships that people get, how to apply for scholarship. So let me tell you a few things. There's uh, so the thing is that, there are two types of universities in US. First is government universities, second is private universities. So what I went to is like government university. UCLA is like #1 government university in US. So the government universities, as they're funded by the state, the scholarship they provide is mostly for the American students, or more I would say California students. They usually don't provide scholarships to, like, the initial scholarships to people who are outside of the country. The main thing is that the whole structure of government universities is such that they want to support the local student. They want to help the local student. Even if you are not from California, you still have the same regulations as an international student. But the good part about the government universities is that the fees is very low. Like, they are way cheaper than the private universities. Now there are private universities like USC, University of Southern California. They are private universities. They usually, they have a very high. They're much expensive than UCLA, but then they also provide you with scholarships. So you have, it's like give and take. You have to decide that you want to apply to private universities or government universities, because if you apply to private universities, there are certain scholarships, fellowship that the university provides, and it can actually lower down your whole expenses. Or you can already apply to a government university that is already cheap, but they don't have any scholarships. But I'm saying mostly, I'm not saying that they don't have any scholarships, because once you get into university, there are certain things, like I was talk about the public universities first, the government universities first. So once you get into government universities, once you are in there, then there are certain things you can do, like to manage your expenses. The first thing is TA-ships. Once you're in the college and you can go to the professor, you tell them what your research work is, you tell them, please make them your teacher assistant. That's called TA-ship. And if they like your work, they will just make you TA. So TA is actually assistant of the teacher. They check the papers for the teacher. They sometimes take the lectures for the teachers. And if you are able to convince him that you can verbally communicate with the students, you have good communication skills, and you know about the subject, you can show your bachelor's, because pretty much it's the same thing. So you can show your bachelor that you have studied that subject and you know what the whole subject is about. You can get a TA-ship, and in a TA-ship, what happens in UCLA, if you take a TA-ship, half of your fee is paid by the college. Like, you get a scholarship for half of your fee for that semester, quarter. So like, you just pay half of it. So yeah, there are ways in public universities also that you can do to get scholarships, but they are like post. Once you are there, you won't get it before you are there. Second thing that you can do, you can work on campus in libraries and other stuff, but that's not related to the academia. That's something that you want to mend your expenses. Now, coming to the private universities, what happens in private universities is that even though like they're expensive for sure, but they have a lot of scholarships they offer to students, because they want to encourage students to come there. And eventually it makes the same thing, it makes the same thing that you spend in a private university with scholarships that you spend on a public university without scholarships. The other resources, because I know there are many students who might be interested or what kind of scholarships and internships like I have provided. I would say that every university have their different scholarships. I can't just, because I'm from UCLA, I just know one scholarship, and that might not be applicable if you're applying to USC or UC Berkeley or Stanford. So there are some resources online, from some websites like FastWeb, FastAid, or FinAid. These are three top websites in US that actually help you to understand what university is having what scholarship and when to apply for it and what's the eligibility criteria.
May I just interrupt you? Can you just once again repeat these websites for the audience?
Sure. So the website is, the first one is FastWeb, FASTWEB, FastWeb. Second is FastAid, FASTAID, and third one is FinAid, FINAID. So these are like top three websites that can actually that guide you through the whole process. Which university you want to target, what scholarship they have, what scholarship if for what student the scholarship is for, and when you have to apply for it. Apart from that, there is some Indian websites also like College 360 or We Make Scholars that tell you about scholarships that Indian governments or some institute from India that they offer. Like some of them are like JLRD Tata Scholarship. Then is Dhanrajji Dalal Scholarship. Then there's Inspire. Inspire is actually from the Government of India, Department of Science and Innovation. And there's Indira Gandhi Research Scholarship. So I would say there are like a lot of scholarships. I can't just tell you a few because it would be injustice. So the thing is that you need to find your target university. Once you have your target university, you can just go to these websites or go to that college only, talk to their TAs because they have people who are representatives who are always there. Tell them that this is your profile. Is there any scholarship that you can apply? And if there's anything that's matched you, they certainly send it to you and then you can apply for it.
That's great, Pradeep. So Pradeep, now coming back to your journey again. So you, after completing your master, so most of the people would have chosen research as their field to pursue PhD, for instance. So you went otherwise, you did otherwise, and you applied for a job in around California only. So what was the motivation behind getting a job, and how difficult is it actually to find a job for any other? Is it possible for somebody who has done masters in India to find a job in US, and specifically related to engineering graduates, and how difficult was it for you?
So I would say like the first thing is that once I was doing my master's, so in our college in geotech engineering, usually in whole US. So when you're doing the earthquake engineering, in your final thing, you have to give a comprehensive exam. So the comprehensive exam actually includes one question from all the subjects that you have taken, and you have to pass all those questions with 75% minimum. And if you don't pass that, you don't get your degree. That's the minimum requirement in US for earthquake engineering. The one more thing in that exam is that if you score 90% in that exam, you're already qualified for PhD. There's one thing that's for the PhD students. So there's a comprehensive exam that happens after every exam in US in some universities, specific to university by university. That if you pass that exam, you score 90%, you're already pre-qualified for PhD. Then you have to give a thesis. What is the subject you want to defend in your PhD? What you want to research, and if professors like it, you are granted PhD. That's the main step of getting PhD. And for the students who want to apply for PhD, they can go to do this method, a master's plus PhD, because many of my friends, one of my friends, his name was Anish, and he got John Rees Scholarship. That's some scholarship that UCLA provides. So what he did, he went to master's and he scored like in the comprehensive exam, he scored more than 90%, and he already got the PhD. Same happened with me. I also scored like 90% and I was offered PhD. But the thing is that, so my idea was that since I already done my bachelor's and I just went straight to my master's, I didn't have the experience of industry. And I would say when I would go to internships, I would realize that whatever we're studying in the books, it's very different how it actually works out in the field. I didn't want to go for PhD right away because I had no actual idea how the things work in the field. So that was the main motivation that made me go for a job instead of a PhD. Now, talking about how difficult it is to get a job in US, especially if you're degree from US, I would say that the first thing is that you should understand this thing. You're an international student in US, and they usually prefer national, US citizens over international students because they have to sponsor you, and it's no company wants to spend extra money on you. But There are ways to work around that. The first thing that the thing that actually helped me a lot is to make connections. How do you make connections? So when you're at your college, you usually have some fest or you have some programs that are organized by college. Take part in that. Take part in that. Get involved with the people, the local diaspora, the teachers, and tell them that you're there, you're available, you can do work, you are around there. Because all these events usually have professors coming from different colleges, and once they see you, you are noticed. The main thing is that make yourself visible, that you're in the industry. So that happens once the people know you, and once you're applying for jobs, you can email these people. You're like, okay, sir, we met at that event, and this is my name, and sir, I was looking for jobs. Do you have anything in mind? And if they're able to remember who you are, they will certainly forward you some jobs. So in our industry, the earthquake industry, it's pretty much, it's a small industry and people know each other. And because I knew people, because I knew professors, they actually helped me a lot in getting job offers from different companies. I would say they're just getting you into the interviews. They're not getting your jobs. A job has to be like, totally is your work. But to get into interview, that's a big thing because you already overstep a major caveat that was already there for the international students. So I would say everybody who is planning to go to US, work on your soft skills, work on how you talk to people, how you interact with people, because that will come really handy once you are here.
Pradeep, as we move on, I would like to take some questions from the audience that they have already asked us. One of the students, Akib Baba, he says that I do not have IELTS nor TOEFL. So can I still get a full scholarship in US?
So I would say Basi, the thing is that, if you have applying for university, so right now because of pandemic, many universities have suspended TOEFL and GRE, but that's temporary. That's only for this year. It might not be the usual case. Let's talk about the usual case. The usual case is that when you're applying for universities in US, they want to know that you know English. You can understand what topics are being taught in the classes, because if you went to US, even though you have good score, but if you don't know how to interact in English, if you understand the teacher, what he's teaching, I mean, it won't make any sense for you going there. So that's why these colleges prioritize IELTS or TOEFL. For US, it's TOEFL. For Canada or Europe, it's IELTS. The thing is that I think you certainly have to take up this exam. I mean, it's also good for you. It will also give you a chance to learn some new words and get know where your level is. But when you're applying for this college, you're also preparing for GRE. And in the GRE, you have a section for English. And once you're preparing for that, you're pretty much prepared for TOEFL already. So with me, I prepared for TOEFL only for 3 days because I had already prepared for GRE. And I scored 111 out of 120. And that was with 3 days of preparation. So there are some online resources for TOEFL if this guy wants to do. It's called Noteful. They have a YouTube channel, Noteful. It's a great resource because if I say I did all this preparation in 3 days, is because of this YouTube channel. They were like an immense resource for me. They just break down every section of TOEFL exam and tell you how to write the answers for it. And if you go to it, you just know basic English. It will be really helpful. So that guy should check this YouTube channel.
So, Pradeep, we have another question from Mr. Abdul Khan. He says that if a student is pursuing his degree, say for instance, bachelor's or master's, and his thesis award is yet awaited, so is it possible that he can apply for any positions in the US? I mean, what are the general requirements when you fill in the application forms? I mean, do they want your degrees to be in hand, or they can wait for some period of time?
So the thing is that so when I applied for my for UCLA, I was already in my fourth year, so I hadn't graduated yet. So I graduated in 2018, and I started my masters also in 2018. So that's the thing, that when I applied for these universities, I was still in my fourth year. So yeah, these universities do understand. You can apply during your fourth year, even though when you don't have your degree with you. But the thing is that when you go to these universities, probably you have completed your studies. Then you have to take up a provisional certificate from your university that this guy has completed his all the subjects, and his degree will be awarded in some time, because our degree was awarded in December and we had to start in September only. So we took that provisional certificate from our university, from SRM, and I presented that to UCLA. And yeah, you can do that. You can do it in your fourth year only.
We have a couple of questions around this that so if a student does not have a research paper in bachelor's or in master's, so is it possible for him to get admission in any United States university with a fellowship?
See, the thing is that, as I told you, you can still get admission in any university. But what we are talking about here is like the top two universities like Stanford, UCLA, the top. And I'm again saying that even if you lack one metric, which is one variable that you're not really good at, you can still make up for it. Don't be disheartened if you are not fulfilling that one metric. It's just not the end of the game. Like, there are other things you possibly furnish. If you're having good GPA, if you're having internships, and you just don't have a research paper, you can explain it in your SOP that I didn't have resources to do it. And these people do actually do understand. If you tell them your general problems, that this was the reason I couldn't do my research work, they will understand, and you can still secure admit from Stanford, UCLA. So don't be disheartened.
Okay, so we have another question from on Zoom platform. Let's take it up from Ms. Manmeet Kaur. She says that when we are in our bachelor's program, we are actually, as I rephrase it, most of the students are naive. I mean, they don't understand that what exactly they will be focusing on at a later stage. So how can they choose a research topic? And just a second, just a second. So how can they choose a research topic? And if are there any possible resources that can help them?
Okay, so like I will. There are two parts of this question. The first part is like this is also related to the universities, how people apply to universities. Usually, people search for universities; they don't search for the courses. And that's the same question. People want to do masters, but they don't know what the research subject is. First, you have to find your interest. What interests you? Because you don't want, because when you're doing a research, you have to get immersed into it. Like, because I mean, you're sort of a doctor. For when you're defending your thesis, you're doing your PhD, how intensely, how deep in depth you have to go to the subject. And if you don't have interest into that subject, it makes no sense because it won't interest you, and you might give up after doing a lot of work. You don't want to do that. So the thing is that once you are in your subject, just go through your books in your curriculum. What subjects are there? What interests you? What makes sense? What doesn't makes you like, okay, why is this thing happening? Why doesn't this thing make sense to me? Because there can be two things. It can make total sense to you, or it can make no sense to you. And you're like, why doesn't this thing make sense to me? And you can start researching on it. Find that sweet spot. What is making you interested in that particular thing? Why this particular thing is happening. Either way, you may be understanding it totally, or you don't understand a bit about it, and you just want to question why is this happening. That's your sweet spot, and that's where you want to do the research. And similarly, when you're applying for your universities outside, you need to find what course you want to do. Because I wanted to do earthquake engineering at first for me, then I started finding the colleges. Don't find a college first, find your course first, because once you know what your course is, then you narrow down your universities. Hello, Khalid. Khalid.
Some internet issues.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Okay, we're back.
Yeah,
Please
we
go
are
ahead.
back. And
I thought that you.
no,
It went
I will still continue to the question of Manmeet Kaur. So the first thing is that first find the sweet spot. Second thing is that if you still don't understand what you want to do, ask your professors. They are, because you're just starting, and your professor have done possibly a lot research work. And ask your professor, is there something that he wants to research on and that he wants to share with you, and see if that topic that your professor wants to research on, and if it's making sense to you, help your professor, because that's like a sweet spot that actually gives you a head start. Because if your professor is already interested in it and you want to help him out, it not only helps him, it also helps you. So if you're not able to find a research topic, go to your professors. I mean, they are, so we don't understand the value of our teachers. The thing is that if you go to your professor and ask them, they can be a really good resource for you.
Okay, that's cool. Just we will take a few more questions. So, Pradeep, when you had been here in India, so can you just make us understand a few internships that you took up or you did in your bachelor's program? Please mention a few internships. What are the possible internship options for bachelor students in India?
So yeah, I will just kind of share my whole journey from my bachelor's right from the start, what I did, how I applied for university, so that it actually gives a roadmap for many people who are watching this, and maybe they get some idea. So when I started my bachelor's in my first years, I was just searching for colleges abroad. There was no groundwork done by me. I started doing my groundwork right from my second year. And my second year, the first internship that I did was in Kashmir. It was with JK Era. So they were building this freeway, and they were doing this from Natipura to the Jahangir Chowk. And as I was always interested in foundations, and they were fortunately doing the foundation work, and it was a good, it was something that interested me, and already it was related to civil engineering. I went there, and so the thing is that that's what I'm saying. If you're interested, all the people around you help you. So the basic internship program in Kashmir that usually you see is like there's an engineer who comes to the site. He gives you some topics, 2, 3, gives you a lecture for half an hour, and he says you go home. But I didn't want to go home. I wanted to go with my the supervisors who are at the site. I would just go to them, ask them around, and that actually helped me bolster my knowledge, because in the next semester when I had actual subject on that topic on the foundations, I already knew so much about it. My professor was already impressed with it. He said like, okay, you already know about this. How is that? How do you know all this? And I told them during my internship, I asked around, and that was the first point where my teachers noticed me. In the third year, as I told you, my HOD, he saw us doing a lot of research work. He took us to Signature Bridge. Signature Bridge is like an iconic bridge that is being made in New Delhi. It's now complete. And they were still doing work on that when we were there. And he called the site engineer. He told that I have these students. Can you give them a foundation, an internship foundation? They're like, yeah, we are doing some really good work here. And that's how we connected to a professor, to that site engineer. That's the second year, how we did our second internship. The third internship that I did was with IRCON. So, as I was going to these conferences in New Delhi, I met some site engineers of IRCON. IRCON is actually the Indian Railway Construction. And I told them, I am interested in this foundation. And they was like, he told me and my friend that there's being a work done in Bihar. And if you're interested, if you can travel that much, we can offer you internship. So yeah, you have to be open. You have to be open to opportunities. You have to be open to take risks and be communicative. If you communicate to people, because nobody's going to know what you want unless you ask for it. There are so many things that are out right there if you just ask for it. So that's the main thing.
So as I understand this, Pradeep, that students can themselves also approach companies for internships, right?
Yeah. Yes, yeah, that's the main thing. As I told you, if you need something, ask for it. Like so in a earlier discussion, we would discuss like how to talk to professors overseas. But if you want internship, so just go to you want internship in certain company, send them an email, go to their office, give them your resume. I know they might not be like they might not be ready for it. They might be busy. But out of 100 you apply, you will at least get one reply, and maybe that's internship you want. So apply all as much as you can.
So a few more questions. I'm clubbing them together. I mean, some things around this. That how is career as a geotechnical engineer fascinating, and another is that somebody wants to do a career in engineering geology. How should he proceed with his bachelor's or master's? From which I mean, is it possible to do bachelor's in India in engineering geology, or he has to go elsewhere for master's and other likewise?
So yeah, there's one more thing I would like to add to this. You don't need to do your bachelor's and master's in the same stream. Like you can have a bachelor's in engineering in India, and you can do your master's in geology in US. You don't. That's what I'm saying. The US is pretty flexible. If you show them that you are interested in certain subject and you want to do that, they will possibly allow you to do that. It's not very rigid system. If you have different interests, or you just want to shift your focus, even after in going to US, you can do that. You can have your bachelor's in something different and your master's in something different. For the people who want to do their master's in engineering geology or geotech engineering, I would recommend them that in their bachelor's, first they need to see that if they are striking a chord with geotechnical, because you're setting your career for it. You don't want to do something that doesn't interest you. So once you're in your bachelor's, when you're having your soil subject, see if that makes sense to you, if you're understanding what is being written there or what is being done in the internship or research work. Once you have it, Then once you know what, because in the geotech and engineering, there are fields, like my specialization was earthquake, but there's other specialization that's environment. So you need to see what interests you more, environment or earthquake. Once you have selected your subject, once you know what your research subject is, and this applies for everybody, every other stream. Once you know what you want to do your master's in, first you have selected your course, then go for the universities, send them your SOPs, LORs, and your mark scores. Apply to as much universities as you can. I'm talking about the top universities. You'll eventually get admits replies from them.
Okay, may I take this opportunity to tell our audience who have joined us on Zoom and who are watching us live on Facebook that we'll be having a JK Scientist communication workshop, which will be which will contain or 3 or 4 sessions, and we'll have sessions on how to enhance the soft skills, how to communicate with your professors, and we'll be announcing that very soon. So Pradeep, as we have discussed this threadbare, that there's a kind of a mindset in Kashmir, for instance, particularly, and which is true in the rest of the country also, that bachelor's people and even master's people are not inclined more towards the research. So, what suggestions do you want to give to our kids back home so that this mindset of research orientation gets more focused?
So I would say, like, for the first basic question is that why do you do research? Why you want to do research? Is because you're interested in some topic, you are not understanding that topic, and you want to know more about it. That's the basic thing. So I would say, like, the fault is not there. The fault is in our education system, because we are always told to rote learn. We are told to remember some certain stuff and write that in exam. We are never made we never made the students to explore their possibilities. And that's the thing that actually, that's the thing that happened with me when I met those German people in the National Children's Science Congress. I was forced to think like how I'm doing my studies and how these guys do their studies. How are they actually, pushing their limits? How they're doing things on their own. So you have to change the way you look at your degree. You don't see it as a thing to get marks, but as a thing to learn something. And once you change that outset, that mindset that I want to acquire some knowledge, I want to do something that interests me. Your interest already changed towards research. Then you want to do the research. So I would say it's more about the mindset we are having to our studies.
So Pradeep, we have a few questions, but we largely wanted to focus this on this program related to masters and PhD programs, so that they could get a kind of motivation from what you have done. So we have a few questions, and we'll wind up then. Uh, a lot of people have asked about postdoc positions. I understand that you might not know much about that, but you might have seen number of postdocs in your labs. I mean, they can you do you have any idea about how postdocs approach their professors in specifically in the fields of engineering? Have you ever encountered any postdocs in your lab?
Yeah. So as I told you, that the first thing is that for the PhD, you still have to you can't go from bachelor's to PhD. You have to do masters. So one of the way to get your PhD in US is that you start as a master student, and then you score good scores in your comprehensive exam, and you all automatically qualify for PhD. Because even if you have done your masters from India and you want to apply for directly to PhD, you still have to give that comprehensive exam. So that comprehensive exam is the main key of getting the admissions to PhD. So the thing is that once you have given that exam and you scored, then you have to select topic, what topic you want to do. And once you are into that topic, the opportunity here is like that, you're not just working as a postdoc, because in a postdoc in US it's minimum 5 years, but your studies get completed only in 2 years. Like they are no more than 2 years of course. In the last 3 years, you're just doing the research work. You're just doing work to support your thesis, what you want to do and how you want to defend it. In that time, you also get this TA-ship or graduate research assistant that from the college that helps you support your finances and everything. Like if you're not able to secure a fellowship, you can still secure a TA-ship or a GRA that help you, mend your expenses here.
So, Pradeep, we have a question that if we take certain online courses that foreign universities are offering, a lady Manmeet Kaur is asking this question. I mean, we also are into a situation where most of the people are taking online stuff now. If a certain candidate takes these online courses, does this help in making good SOP?
So I would say, yeah, this is a basic thing. You need to understand that no knowledge is wasted. Like whatever you acquire a knowledge, it's helpful. So whenever you're taking an online course, no matter what university you're taking it, you're acquiring something. You're acquiring a basic knowledge, and that knowledge actually helps you to perpetuate, what your understanding about that subject is. So yeah, definitely, all the courses you take online or offline, that's the main thing. What the university sees, like what do you know and what you want to do. So if you are able to make them understand, I have learned this course and I have done this thing, it actually strengthens your SOP. It shows that you know something about this subject and you want to do something in the other subject. So yeah, that's definitely a plus on.
Pradeep, we will take up last question before we wind up. I do not know whether you will be able to answer this. If we have a question from Mr. IPS Bali, I have asked him that if our speaker is not in a position to answer this, please mail it to us. We have other people on board. So number one, his question is: in order to get a smooth visa, do we need multiple offers from universities or for jobs?
So the thing is that, so when I applied, so as I wanted to keep myself restricted, I applied only to 5 universities. So the first university was UCLA, second was UC Berkeley, third was UC Davis, fourth was TAMU, that's Texas and A&M University, and fifth one was University of Austin. All the universities are like the top university. They are very ambitious universities, and I got admit from four of them. So that's the thing. I will tell you the whole story. I got admit from four of them, and from the Berkeley, I was getting a deferral for the next year. I didn't want to wait, so the next best university was UCLA. I went for UCLA. Me and my friend, we both had like admits from four universities, and four of them are from the top universities. We went to interview. I got my interview cleared because of the questions. She got her interview like visa rejected. She was having admits from four top universities of US. She still got rejected. The reason is that if when you're into the visa interview, if you're not able to convince that visa officer what your intentions are, why are you going, you don't know your subject, or you get confused, and it reflects that you don't know most of the things about your program. If he picks it out, doesn't matter if you're having admit from UCLA, they will still reject you, and it has happened. In the second time, so I would say in a visa, with the criteria is that basically the visa officer doesn't concern about what university you're going. He just wants to make sure that you have enough money to support you there, and you are going to come back. So that's how you frame your answers around. If in your answers you make them know that you intend to stay there, you don't want to come back, or you don't have money to support, you are just looking for fellowship and something, and you're looking for fellowships in future, you don't have them in hand, you're probably going to get rejected. So you have to be stronger on your finances and your intentions.
Okay, he also asks another question if you are able to answer this. He says that for STEM programs specifically, if someone gets an OPT offer and joining dates exceed 90 days, what should be done to continue staying at US?
There are two things you can do. So you can apply for E2. E2 is a type of visa that you get in US, and this actually you file for extension. You tell them that your visa is in your certain visa is in waiting, and you want to extend your stay, and that is pretty much easy to get. That's not an issue. If you're having your OPT and it is expiring soon, and you have applied for your OPT extension, and that has not, because in US in STEM programs you have two OPTs. First is the initial OPT, that's for 1 year. Then is the OPT extension that comes for 2 more years. So in total of 3 years. So in case your initial OPT is expiring and you are waiting for your OPT extension to be, to get approved, you can apply to you can tell these things to your DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, and they give you 180 days extension. So instead of 90 days usually have, you get an extension of 180 days. So it's all about communication. You need to tell the visa agencies, the DHS, that your visa is waiting and you're waiting for the decision. So that's how it works out.
Thank you so much, Pradeep, for being with us. It has been nice talking to you. So we wind up with this I would, number one, I would request you to be with us on JK Scientists for our mentorship programs also, and we will have a number of queries on emails. We'll forward them as and when we receive from our people. So I would like to ask you, Pradeep, do you have any suggestions for us at JK Scientists that we can do more specifically on ground so for our people back home?
So yeah, so from my experience, what I have learned over these days, that the first problem that we have is that we don't know the process. We don't know how to apply, who to approach, how to approach. That's the main things. So I learned these things over certain trials and errors. So I would say, because JK Scientist already has a connection with so many people who are already outside, you can connect these students to those people, and they can actually already have a head start in their life. Because I started from second year, but I took 3 years because I had to do a lot of trials and errors. But if somebody takes that knowledge from me, maybe he has to work only for 2 years instead of 3 years. So that's, he saves 1 year. So yeah, you can help these students to connect with people who are, especially people who are already in their field of interest, and they can start working. They can actually guide them, and they can actually save a lot more time. That's one thing you can do. Second thing, you're already doing a very good work of initiating these workshops like this, where many people connect and talk to people who are already there. And I think it's a very good thing, because you're giving back to your community. You're helping out each other, because somebody has helped me, I'm helping out, and somebody from your conference right now, he might be helping somebody 2-3 years down the lane. So it's all a chain. We need to understand this.
Pradeep, before winding up, may I just take this opportunity quickly for those who have joined us today. JK Scientists is number one revamping its mentorship program. We used to have a one-on-one mentorship program previously. We are revamping it based on certain suggestions from our students and based upon suggestions from the mentors. So we would also invite you hopefully soon in our mentorship program also. Second, we are into a different series as well. We will be having workshops, a nano workshop. We'll be also having a neuroscience workshop. We'll be also having certain engineering workshops. While we will be training our people specifically related to certain fields of their choice. And then in the first week of October, we are starting we are kick-starting our communications webinar or communications workshop as well. So any of us, so we will be announcing them soon on our JK Scientists Facebook platform and Twitter platform. So any of you who has joined us for the first time, may please connect with us on Facebook or Twitter as well. So thank you so much, Pradeep. We wind up with this. It has been quite indeed nice talking to you, listening to you. And I hope that there will be a lot of people back home, especially the students and those who are working in academia also, who have learned a lot of things from you today. So I thank you on behalf of JK Scientists for being with us today. I also thank the organizers of this event, in particular the outreach team, Dr. Mir Zohur, Mr. Asif Bakshi, Dr. Jamil Khan, and Saima Beg for organizing these wonderful sessions. Thank you so much, Pradeep, once again for joining us on JK Scientists Outreach Program.
Thank you, Khalid. Thank you for inviting me. And before we wind up, I would just like to mention these few words before we wind up. For all the students who are applying, this is one thing I'm saying again. Getting out of country is not a big thing. You can still get a college after your fourth year in US, Canada, Europe. The best thing is if you can apply to the best universities, because that's where your career starts. That's where your career takes a shoot. And for that, just there are some few things. Just remember, first of all, be optimistic. Always be optimistic. I mean, as I told you, in my journey also, I had some setbacks. But if I would have given up on there, I wouldn't have been here where I'm right now. Don't give up. Be optimistic. Take risk. Take calculated risk, but take risk. Be there. Take the opportunity what you have. And surely and hopefully, I'm pretty sure many of you who are watching this today might be in my position soon and might be guiding some other students. I wish you all best of luck.
Thank you so much, Pradeep. Once again, thank you so much. And I also would like to take this opportunity to thank your mother who introduced you to JK Scientists. I would especially thank her from JK Scientists outreach team. Thank you so much. And please say, please pass on our greetings and best wishes to your mother as well. Thank you, Pradeep.
Thank you.
So
thank
much.
you, Khalid. Thank you, everybody. Good night. Good evening. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.